It is Wednesday, the 27th of August, 2025, and coming to you live from northern Israel. I'm going to talk to you once again about marketing and AI, specifically AI marketing for the win. What do I mean by that? So, as you know, I've long said people should do what when it comes to new technology? Lean into change, right? Lean into change. That's the main number one thing you have to do when confronted with a new technology that can radically shift the way things are done. And when it comes to generative AI, large language models, the whole deep learning, machine learning, and AI sphere of technology, which, yes, they're all very different in many different ways, all distinct purposes, capable of different things. But the point is, when you have machines doing what appears to be thinking and working for you in tasks that previously required some level of mental skill, um, whether it be academic, mathematical, artistic, whatever, copywriting, anything, task setting, accounting, programming, whatever it might be, all the things you used to be able to do with a computer without machine language and machine learning, and AI and generative AI and large language models, deep learning, all that stuff, neural networks. Now all that stuff is more and more automated. And whether you like it or not, it has already begun to take over because so many marketing agencies use it to be more efficient and, in theory, effective. And so many companies have already adopted it to the point where there are now literally whole companies that require that their employees use those technologies a certain amount every day or week. So, for example, some places require all their employees, whether they're programmers or not, right, to use generative AI tools at least an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, whatever it might be, depending on the company. Some companies are fully AI, meaning they don't not use them. If there's any task that needs to be done, they first seek to get it done with AI. If it's not possible to do with AI in its current form, they seek to try to get it done with AI as much as they can. And however much it falls short, either they can make up the difference using non-AI means, or if they have no choice, they use non-AI means entirely for the task, but they seek to develop ways to do that with AI. Those are AI first companies and agencies and freelancers and whatnot. And they already have been working for years. Don't think this is new. This is not new. And I've been telling you about these things, but you need to understand it is increasingly the case. Now, does this mean that AI has already replaced every aspect of your meaningful work? No. Even if you are a marketer or a business executive or an accountant or a manager or a carpenter or a chef or anything that AI has in any way, shape, or form touched. And yes, carpentry has been touched by this because design plans, right, and other things. Um, and anybody who makes YouTube videos and edits videos and all this kind of stuff, right? Any field, right? Even lawyers have been affected by this, right? We know that people turn to ChatGPT. ChatGPT 5 apparently can beat the bar, the bar exam, like pretty much almost all the time, right? If not all the time. I don't think it screws up any of the answers to any of the questions as it gets. So, and that was already true with like the previous couple of versions of it. Now it's apparently so much more significant that it's way better. Apparently, don't take my word for it and do your own research on that, but apparently it can easily beat the bar. And but that doesn't mean that there isn't place for you to still put your human touch. So, like, you might say, "Oh, I'm sick of AI slop," and maybe you are legitimately sick of AI slop. But who's making the AI slop? It's still people for the most part. By and large, it's still people making it. And what is AI slop, right? It's really just like the lazy. You could say it's the laziness of people using machines to do their semi-creative or attempts at creative work and kind of slapping it all together. But if you look at some of the better work, there are some really amazing things people are creating with AI, whether you like to admit it or not. There are some very creative things people have been doing with AI. Right? Look at the ads from that water company. They're very funny. What's it called? Like Death Juice or something like that? I forget the name, but very, very awesome water company. They sell water in cans, right? And they've got these like crazy skulls and stuff on their cans, like scary looking, not really scary, but scary looking graphics and stuff. Very well branded. I just have other things on my mind, so I can't remember it. But you probably know the brand I'm talking about. If you do, comment what the brand is, because I forgot it. What does it say? Liquid Death. That's it, bro. Dude, thank you. Before I even said it, you're awesome. Liquid Death. They made awesome AI-only ads. Okay, now are there issues coming with like making sure that actors get paid royalties and stuff? Yeah, there are. But of course, there are also plenty of AI companies doing visual video stuff where they already have the rights fully from the get-go to use the actors that they're using as the basis for models, etc. Many of them already have those rights. The rest will surely comply at some point. Okay. Now, can you argue that for the past few years, there have been a lot of artists whose works have been probably misused and shouldn't be? Yeah, but you know how fast these things change? By the time a court case would get through courts, and it could be radically shifting in the sense that if they would make it retroactive and therefore impact the development of the things that now circumvent that entire issue, it would be kind of moot anyway. But yes, you certainly could have some kind of penalties levied against companies that use the rights of various artists or other kind of creators without giving them the proper credit and or royalties. But it would be minuscule compared to what the revenues of these AI companies will be by the time such a court case would actually get through the court system and actually have the penalty be applied. So, if you're one of the people who can make that lawsuit and you have every right to, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't, because there's actually a pretty good chance that you will get some payment. It's just that you need to be very patient and you need to understand it might take literally years, right? And that also it's going to become probably a moot case. So they're going to see it as a kind of a one-off damage report, right? Because it's not likely to be relevant except for some extenuating circumstances as time goes on, because most people don't reuse most content. Most content disappears after it makes its first appearance. Right? That's something you need to understand. I know the internet makes your content live forever, sure. And that's kind of true. But also the internet makes everyone forget your content literally as they're watching it. Because there's so much of it and people's minds are so polluted, or should I say so congested, that's maybe a better word, with information from different sources, that there's no way for anyone to remember exactly, which content source was what, and to actually reuse all of it. Most brands don't reuse all the content they make about themselves. So certainly people aren't going to reuse everyone else's brand content or on-message content or just artistic content. Right? Eventually these things, like if it's popular to make a remix of a particular sound right now, by tomorrow it'll be popular to make a remix about a different song, right? Even by later today, right? And it sounds crazy. What do you mean by later today? No, because the market is real and fluid and dynamic. It's constantly changing. It's not based on release dates that are planned months ahead of time. But even though those things still happen, the real market overall is so congested with so much content in every walk of life that there is no cycle of months for a particular piece of content to stay relevant in the topmost shelf of the content of that niche, whatever it might be. Okay, even if you make a big blockbuster in Hollywood, right? You make a big Hollywood blockbuster, put all the marketing behind it. What's its shelf life as a first run movie? A couple weeks, a couple months? What? If it's a huge movie, maybe 3 months, like Avatar was, I think. How long was Avatar relevant for in the movie theaters? 4 months? I mean, probably people could go see it for 5 or 6 months, and that was considered a big deal, like a really big deal. But most people had already seen it in the first month. Those that hadn't definitely saw it in months 2 or 3. And after that, it was mostly people who either wanted to see it again or the random stragglers who just hadn't managed to see it yet, right? I mean, in terms of like a popular movie that back in the day saturated the market and drew in a lot of people to watch that movie because it was considered very groundbreaking, whatever, for I don't know what reasons. Was it 3D or something? I forget. I think it was. That's what made it one of the things that made it special. Anyway, hi to you, TSM. Anyway, what does it say? TSM Majod Tag. Anyway, nice to meet you. So yeah, so the point is, all these computer-aided creations are wonderful, and they already kind of are winning, and they will continue to win because they will win in terms of making life more efficient. But if you actually want to make life more effective, you still need to give it that human touch with quality assurance and editing, post-production, and all that kind of stuff. Whether it's writing a document, creating a pitch deck, making a spreadsheet, programming a piece of code, creating a script for a movie, recording videos, recording audios, whatever it might be, creating audios, creating videos, creating anything that might require next level kind of computing that makes your life have to do less of the routine work and focus more on the creative aspect of it and the human aspect of it. That's where the power comes into this thing, because we all have access to the same robots. Just like when email came around, we all had suddenly access to communicate with each other directly and immediately. It didn't mean that everybody had the same skill level at those communications, but we all had the ability to communicate, right? We still have that. It's called email. And then suddenly we had, the web, and we all had the ability to make web pages and publish things. It doesn't mean that everybody was equally good at publishing things. And then we had all of a sudden the ability to connect with individuals using social media platforms. It doesn't mean that everybody was equally skilled or fortunate enough with social media because of the random connections they have in life, and then later because of the algorithms, right? Their preferences and all that, which affect what the algorithms show them, connections that they're given by the system, information that they're fed by the system. All this kind of stuff really matters. So that's the human aspect that will always remain relevant, no matter how automated these tools become, right? Yes, the tools will become extremely automated and easier to use and more powerful, and they will do more for you, and they will require you to do less routine, automated type creative, boring tasks, robotic tasks, and they will therefore require you to put on your higher level thinking hat and be more creative, right? More aware of the human condition that matters in relation to the stuff that the robots are making for you and doing for you. This is the stuff that people really need to think of, right? So things like ethics still matter. Just because you have a bunch of robots doing these routine tasks does not mean ethics don't matter. They still matter completely. Okay? They still are highly relevant. Because without the ethics, we would live in a very dystopian world where nothing matters except the robots rule and the code, and the code is law, and that's not what we want ultimately as a society. Yes, we want code to be law in some respects, in the sense that we want it to be stable and trustworthy and reliable, and not changeable without a massive consensus or whatever the rule is for that particular piece of code. But we want people to be ultimately in charge, not machines. Even if we know machines would do a quote unquote statistically better job in many ways. Okay. Like me personally, I will never want to put my hands in the life of a robotaxi if I can prevent it. As much as I know statistically they may be safer drivers than people, yeah, that 1 in a billion time, here's the problem. The robot doesn't care if it gets you in an accident or not. It has no emotions. It has no real risk that a person does. Say a person goes cuckoo and decides he wants to, crash a car that you happen to be a passenger in. He still has some risk if he succeeds at doing his awful deed or if he fails at doing it. Either way, there's risk if he has a bad intent in mind, right? So there's a risk for him doing a bad action. For the robot, there is no risk. Worst case, you disassemble a robot, right? You reprogram it, and what does it know? It doesn't know. You disassemble it, it doesn't know. It could care less. It has no emotions. Even if you gave it an emotion chip, it's still just a robot, right? So that's why you still want a person who has life responsibility on the line, like drivers, or doctors, electrical engineers, anybody who has anything to do with electricians, anybody has to do with preparing anything that this, involving risk of life, even pharmacists. I know robots can dispense drugs from the pharmacy just as well or better than a pharmacist, but you still want a human to be responsible for that, to make sure that they do the job right, because there's a risk to the human if, God forbid, they don't. And so that's why we make sure that is the case, that we still have people who are in charge of the robots. Because if people are not in charge of the robots, again, you can have disasters happening very easily. Anyway, that's my little discussion for now about AI robots for the win. I think it's good for us overall that robots do more of the work that we don't want to do. But we need to make sure that's in measured pace